one of the most obvious things during worship is if you miss a slide, or there's a misspelled word, or if your timing is off, or if it stutters, it goes black. It takes people out of the experience, and that's the last thing we want, right? And that can all that can come from like under training, having a software that people don't understand, or it's too complicated, they don't have time, and most churches can't. I would 95% of churches can't afford to have somebody on staff to run slides, right?
No, that's true. They can't.
And so we've made our solution to where it's like you can train 12-year-old kid how to do it.
Hey friends, welcome back to the podcast. My name's Gary. I'm your community manager here at BoxCast, and it's so awesome to have you. One of the best things about doing these things is we get to bring on some really cool people. So before I get to that, let's talk about you. Like, commenting, and subscribing today. We need you. We need you to do that. We want to engage with you. We want you to be a part of our community here at BoxCast. We like to bring some high quality content as well as high quality streaming, and of course our products and services that will help you. So if you're interested in BoxCast, please like, comment, subscribe on this video today, and then of course go over to BoxCast.com and talk to one of our awesome representatives who can help you figure out all your streaming needs, as well as sites or sharing and everything in between. All right, now let's get back to our podcast. Today, we are bringing on EasyWorship. And if you're not familiar with EasyWorship, EasyWorship is a church presentation software, which they provide users with a wide range of tools that helps them to build their entire services well within the platform, which would include your scriptures and your song lyrics, as well as announcements, sermon notes, so forth and so on. And it's a really good piece of programming and software. I've used it personally. I think it's fantastic. But today, we're bringing on Dan Willard and Jared Warren with EasyWorship. Hey guys, how you doing today?
Doing awesome, man. That was an awesome intro, Gary.
Thanks, man. It's like I've done this before, like
once or twice.
It's like it's my job. Guys, it's good to have you on board. Really quickly, just kind of introduce yourselves, what you do at EasyWorship, and let me, what's your favorite sport or current activity that you're into?
Go ahead, Dan.
My name is Dan Willard. I have been with EasyWorship for 18 years now, and I do the training, documentation, help with support. I've done support with EasyWorship for years and years. So I know EasyWorship like the back of my hand. I love using it at my church. I'm also a worship leader at my church, been there for 20 years, and have used it the whole 20 years. So yeah, it's a great software. I love working here. Let's see, a great activity or favorite activity, probably pickleball right now. Golf, love golf. Any kind of team sport, I love playing.
Hi guys, my name is Jared Warren. I'm the Support and Communications Director here at EasyWorship. I've been here for almost coming up on 5 years now. Big background in marketing and customer relationship, business-to-business relationships as well. So these opportunities we have to talk to BoxCast and other organizations who share our vision for progressing the church in and around the United States and around the world is an awesome opportunity for us. And we love the chance to get to talk to cool people like Gary.
Hey, don't flatter me, man. Don't flatter me. Today, I wanted to bring you guys in. I wanted to pick your brains a little bit about some specific things that I've been thinking about, or that I know that our churches think about, or churches in general think about. And kind of like what culture is coming down the line here for churches when it comes to media and presentation and, and the future of that. But before I do any of that, I gave the rundown about what EasyWorship is. Can somebody give me some information about how EasyWorship got started and where you guys are at and where you might be headed?
Yeah, Dan, why don't you kick us off on how it got started, and then I'll kind of kick us off on where we get going to.
All right, I'll do my best. EasyWorship. I mean, I didn't start out at the beginning. I came a few years later, but Jeff, the owner, he created the software for his church. They really enjoyed it. Other churches around the area saw it as well and thought it would be great for them, and it was. And so he just started kind of selling it out of his house, and then built the company from there. Started hiring employees and developers, and about 6 or 7 years later, I came on as well as a support person. And yeah, we've just grown and grown since then, become one of the top presentation software for churches on the market. And we really our heart is for the church. So we just want to be able to serve the church and serve it well, serve it for the kingdom of God.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. So, all right, now
Okay.
Jared, your turn.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Dan touched on a lot of the key points, especially, the vision for our company and where it's going is so tied to our passion for progressing the church and providing cost-effective, stable, and, full service solution for churches that are wanting to, kind of upscale what happens during their worship experience and during their sermons. So I think that we've aligned ourselves really well in trying to move the church forward and provide those opportunities in a software that does those things for our customers around the world. And a lot of people think that, we're kind of just a US based, or we are US based, but like US only, but we have tons of customers in the Philippines, in the EU, tons of customers in like the center of Africa. We have quite a few missionary organizations that utilize EasyWorship, and they just like go and plant churches, and then we hook them up with EasyWorship to make sure that they're able to do what they need to do.
Yeah.
And so not to give away too much of, obviously our secret sauce, but in what Dan said, our heart being for the church, a lot of the time we make sure that we go above and beyond to make sure that our customers are taken care of. So that kind of sums up our purpose and our drive and kind of what the future looks like for us. We have, I could get into details on some of the upcoming features and stuff that we're working on and some of the things that we're excited for as a company. But I mean, Dan put it well, and that our heart's for the church, and we just want to do everything we can to make sure that the church is enabled to continue moving forward and growing during this time where it's, the community for the church is changing. The expectations of people at the church are changing. With the advent of live streaming, it changes the way that churches engage with their community. So we want to, and I know that you guys are fully aware of that because you're the enabler. So not in a bad way, but I guess that is sort of a negative term, as enabler.
We're an enabler. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's fine. The first hit's free, guys. Don't worry about it. You're fine. No problem. Don't worry. We're an enabler, guys. That's it. The podcast is over now. We're done. I mean,
an enabler of live stream, connecting with community wherever they are.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I mean, here at BoxCast, like our main purpose is literally we want to be a video platform for churches. Like we believe wholeheartedly that video is the heart of getting outreach and engagement. Like the world has changed to a media driven, like more focused on media and media drivenness. And then you couple brand and SEO, and there's a lot for churches to learn. And so with BoxCast, we like to make it easy to get that one piece together and going, and shameless plug, like we released a really awesome feature called sharing, guys. Like we can take your video, pop it into our AI tool, and we can generate clips for you for social media. So it's going to do it all in a dashboard. So all the content you have been doing already, you can now create those 30-second, 60-second reels that you need to engage your content even further. Because the whole point of church is to spread the gospel, and what a better way to do it than use your video. So that's just how we feel. Just like EasyWorship, we're about churches too. So
something that's really interesting that just kind of hit a note with me that you said is whenever I was in school for marketing, this is 11 years ago now, 12 years ago now, getting my undergrad, was you had 7 seconds to capture somebody's attention. And this is back in 2017. Like this is before TikTok. This is during Vine, right?
Oh yeah.
So the attention span has shortened even more now. So it's like the acceptable time limit to capture somebody's attention is like 3 seconds. And so that challenges all of us especially in the church tech world, of like, how do we help engage everyone quickly? How do we provide a solution both on the presentation and the streaming side to make sure that people are engaged? And I think that that's probably going to lead into like some of the media questions that you have later, but I just wanted to get the ball rolling on that.
Yeah, I mean, nationally, statistically, they say that through transformative media such as video, the average person is at 3.7 seconds. It takes
crazy.
You have 3.7 seconds to find somebody and to hook them in enough. That's why, you know, keyword searching is important, because I mean, when people search on YouTube, the top 67% of searches on YouTube are the first. You know what? I'm going to ask you, what are the first 2 words that are the top 2 words searched on YouTube?
How to. No.
How to. That's
How
right.
to, yeah.
How to.
Good job, Dan. I was going to say something way worse, but I'm glad I managed to reel it in.
Cat video.
Gary's back, like just something.
Charlie's finger.
No. Yeah,
Charlie's finger. Exactly. Yeah.
There you go.
You know, that's exactly it. And that's the thing. It's how to. And I was talking with my video producer Wade about this. Like, it's an important piece of the puzzle. Like, you have to understand the attention span and requirement. Yeah. And so with that, church media is changing, and obviously I think in some ways it's changing for the good. I think more so it's changing for the good. I think there are less road barriers, like there are less roadblocks now than there were, 5, 10, or even 15 years ago for churches to completely reach their community. And I like to use the phrase becoming a community within your community, because I cannot be Red Rocks. My church will never be Elevation, or we will never be the Belonging Co., right? We're never going to be these churches that are huge, have multi-site campuses or spanning across the country or even across the world. So if my church can be the community within its community and help the hurting and the needing by spreading the gospel, then that's what we should be doing right where we're at. And that starts with good marketing. It starts with good branding. It starts with good video content, good presentations, having the ability to put yourself out there. So that's why we believe that BoxCast video is literally the heart of what the church should be doing. So, but I digress.
Man, you just preached a little bit. I had to put my hand up.
That's right, man.
You didn't see me on screen, but I had my hands up.
Well, I'm going to now call the worship team back to the stage. Okay. And I'm going to
take up an offering.
Yeah, I'm going to need my guitar to play a couple swells. So
come on, Dan. He's gonna put his Cash App on there for you to be able to donate to.
Yeah, hit the Venmo button down below. I love it. Yeah, donate now. We'll send you this free book that has nothing in it. Anyway, so sorry, I'm on a roll today, man. This is great. All right, let me jump into some questions for you guys and get your takes on it, and then we can, take that as we go. So, when we consider all things, like when we consider everything under the umbrella of media, which your graphics, your video, your audio, we often think that the time or skill and the cost is something that, especially the cost, something that people really play a factor into. But what are some things that you've noticed that in today's church culture that are actually shaping the direction in which churches are having to actually make this massive pivot in a more media focused perspective, especially when we talk about, church presentation or church branding, or even just in that regard, getting the word out?
Dan, you want to field that?
Yeah, I can start on that. Yeah, I think that kind of plays into what Jared just said a few minutes ago about attention span, or you also mentioned it as well. Just people's attention, especially having media in the church. That's a big focus to keep people's attention during worship, and at least point them in the direction that they should be going for worship. A lot of people get distracted, as well as myself, even when I'm leading worship. Did I play that chord right? Or somebody sang off key and is throwing me off, anything like that. You try to hide it, especially on stage. But for the congregation, there's a lot of distractions and a lot of things that can go wrong.
I think it's for us, what we see is a lot of churches are having to kind of encapsulate and find all of the different venues to use the media in a meaningful way. So we kind of categorize them in, like, you've got stills, you've got motion backgrounds, you got lower thirds, you've got movies that you can play, what we call mini movies. You got countdowns that you play at the beginning or end of service to show different things. And I think churches are utilizing all of those different resources in a way that it's very simple now. And we try to make it as simple as possible to kind of plug and play that media. So we have a premium media subscription where we have over is it over 20,000 pieces at this point,
Yeah,
right, Dan?
25,000,
Oh,
27,000.
there you go.
Like
So quite a bit over 20,000. So 27,000 pieces of media that's included in our media subscription. And a lot of these, a lot of companies are doing this. A lot of the big media producers are doing media subscriptions as well, where you just pay a small, like, nominal price rather than buying piecemeal. And I think a lot of those companies, as well as the church, are finding this a really mutually beneficial thing for you, because you can find media for anything. You can find, you've got Easter Sunday media, you've got, a specific countdown. It's like just a nature background, something that fits your church. And this is probably something I could talk about for hours, and something that Dan and I actually recently talked about in a training summit that we did for our users, was how to kind of find your church's visual footprint. And like, how do you create, the best way I can put it is, how do you find your visual voice? Like, what the look is for your church, not just, what the building looks like, but what you promote on your website, your color scheme, the font that you use, the backgrounds that you choose. Like, are they busy? Are they more calm? Do you use nature a lot? And all those things, there's a lot to unpack there, obviously, which is why I said I could talk about it for hours. But I think that it's kind of critical for the church to find, each church to find what works for it, what engages your congregation, both in church and at home. Because, we're seeing that, like, a portion of your church is now just at home doing live stream services. Whether or not that's somebody who's, like, permanently there, or, just temporarily for, like, if they had a baby or something, which we were in that boat, and we're just like, okay, I guess we'll just be the at home people for right now, while we're getting this tiny human, keeping him alive. But yeah, I think that media plays a pretty crucial role in defining how you engage with your congregation, and utilizing those different categories, like I was talking about, effectively. It has never been easier, especially with our media, with our premium media, because you can literally we have an integration where you can just click, drag, and drop, and it's view it right in the software, and then plug it right in the software, and then it's up on the screen.
For sure. Yeah. I think the things that I think about most, though, when it comes to, like, especially within this question, is, like, it's good to hear that, like, software companies, or even just companies in general, are actually thinking about the user experience, right? Because Apple changed that for us back in the 70s and 80s. More so the 80s. They changed the user experience, where they focused on font type, for goodness sakes. Like, it makes sense, but they're focusing on what is it, like, tactile, how does it feel in your hand, that kind of thing. And I think that's the same. I think that's the thing that church hasn't focused on before, until we get somewhere to, like, the early 2000s, like 2001, 2002, when you have Hillsong, who explodes onto the scene, or Planet Shakers, who explodes onto the scene. And they started seamlessly integrating all the media and media mediums into a flow, into something that presented that. And then you hear that's where you get a little bit of the old school crowd, who's like, well, church shouldn't be a rock band concert, right? Well, but that's the thing. Church isn't a rock band concert, but yet you're still needing to integrate the media, because that's what's expected at this point in time. And the church has never been the forefront runners of using media content in a service. I mean, goodness, you think back to the 90s. I mean, the Gaithers, for example, those, that whole family, that was your presentation. They didn't incorporate any digital content. They didn't incorporate background videos. They didn't incorporate slides. They had some lady who was in the church literally running a overhead projector and putting the words up, so you knew what they were singing. That's as far as media got. Even using a double kick pedal in a drum kit during a worship song was considered taboo in the Assemblies of God for, I don't know, until like the late 70s. So the media volume, churches are having to make these pivots, because that is what content is focusing on, and that's how people's attentions, and then the advent of COVID, right? You got to throw COVID into the mix, because COVID changed the game for a lot of churches. COVID forced churches who were youth pastors or children's pastors or the toilet pastor to turn around and completely become the live streaming pastor and the worship mix artist, and then helping their churches move into. So there's that aspect too. You have to think about that. So the things that we see at BoxCast, so I'm sure the same things that you guys are seeing there currently at EasyWorship, is that people require ease of use. They require the ability to have good integrated content. They want their services to work seamlessly together. They don't want to have to fumble, fuss, or make a mess trying to make it all work. But then on the flip side of that, right, it needs to be something that's continuously evolving, and continuously making life better and making it easier. And I find that for me with churches, that's a struggle, because a lot of these people don't know how to seamlessly integrate their content, you know, or how to make that happen. So you guys did make mention, I think Dan made mention about something about plug and play. And I think that's something I wanted to focus in on with you is where would you fall on the side of authenticity versus plug and play? Because I'm finding that like in any video, people care more about authenticity. And that's how you build credibility and confidence, right? Is authenticity versus it just being some AI driven plug and play model. What do you guys think?
I think that we probably align more on the old, like a happy medium between the two, because our software is built with the concept of making things as simple as possible. I have, first of all, I'm a pretty technical person. But
you can't tell with Hogwarts in the background.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's a good key indicator for what makes somebody technical, but
you're a nerd.
I mean, yeah, that is true. It's fair. But I mean, I can sit down with somebody, and Dan's the training expert here, so he's had way more opportunities to do this with people than I have. But I sat down with my closest friend's grandma, who is like, "Hey, I run." Her name is literally Ethel. She is literally a Nana Ethel. And she would do like slides at her church, like transparency slides still.
Yes.
2023. This was probably 2022 actually.
Oh,
and I was like, hey, let me show you how to do this. It's super easy. I showed her how to use EasyWorship in like about an hour or so. And she still runs it at Prickett Prairie Baptist Church in Sepulpa, Oklahoma. There's like 30 people in the congregation. And it's just like, it's so simple. I love that. I love that story, that anecdote, because it is truly like what the purpose of our company is, to enable volunteer-based churches to be able to present like they're big churches.
Absolutely. Yes.
So I would say that's kind of like, so we do have the authenticity factor of like, hey, this is a home brewed software, but it's made specifically for churches. And in that, we understand what the needs of churches are, especially volunteer-run churches. And you need to be able to click and drag. You need to be able to train somebody new on how to do something in a day. You don't have a month to train somebody, because like one of the most obvious things that I'm gonna get fired up a little bit. I'm gonna start preaching. One of the most obvious things during worship is if you miss a slide, or there's a misspelled word, or if your timing is off, or if it stutters, it goes black. It takes people out of the experience, and that's the last thing we want, right? And that can all that can come from like under training, having a software that people don't understand, or it's too complicated, they don't have time, and most churches can't. I would, 95% of churches can't afford to have somebody on staff to run slides, right?
No, that's true. They can't.
And so we made our solution to where it's like you could train a 12-year-old kid how to do it 5 minutes.
Yeah,
and
we have. Yeah, I have. I know that. But so Dan, let me ask you this question, because I know that you're the training guy. Like, I mean, that's your gig, right? I mean, that's your gig. Your shtick. If you could give a church leader or a ministry volunteer just one piece of advice regarding church technology, what would it be?
Use EasyWorship. That's a good one, Dan. That's a good one, Dan.
From across the hall and around the corner, right?
Yeah. I hear you over there. I mean, it's just probably don't try to get too technical. A lot of people try to do what the big churches do. Most of our churches probably that use EasyWorship, or a lot of the churches, are small country churches, or just these smaller, less than 100 people churches, and they want to do these big things with the lights and the sound and all that. And I would say go small. Do what you need to do for your church, what works for your church. Don't try to be Elevation or Hillsong or whatever. There are things that you can do to make it look really good and have some of those qualities of those churches, but I would say don't go too big, because that's gonna be a whole nother distraction, a whole nother anxiety level for yourself,
Absolutely.
for whoever your volunteer is. So yeah, just keep it simple. Use EasyWorship because it's easy. And yeah, just stay small, do what you need for your church.
So many times we see churches who are actively trying to be something they're not. Something they're always trying to be something they're not. I can't tell you how many times I've seen, some of the churches I've been a part of, or even had the same mentality of being like, oh yeah, well, it's CLC down the road, man, Christian Life Center down the road. They've got it going on. We got to be just like them, or we're never going to see the attendance like them. And that's not the idea.
Yeah. And I've done that myself, leading worship for the past 20 years. I've done stuff. I was like, that was silly. Cause that's a really cool song. Oh, I could do this. And I try it. And my congregation is just like, just, what are you doing? That's not us, and I know that. But it takes time and to figure out, what's right and what's not. And, but yeah, that would be my advice. Just keep it simple and do what you need for your church. Just the experience of it, I know firsthand.
Absolutely. Well, there's also something to be said that, because here's the thing. Like, I equate my job not only as community manager, but as a pastor and as, a business owner now, doing my own things. If you're not learning and you're not adapting, or at least changing things for the better, you're not progressing, you're not learning, you're not doing things better, then you're going to stay stagnant, and then those things wash away, and then you're left behind with a major learning gap. And that's part of the problem. It's good. Start small, start where you're at, be who you are.
Right.
I would say in conjunction with it, but take some time and learn those little aspects of the new things. Like, learn what ISO is on a camera, or learn what f-stop is on a camera. Learn how to white balance the camera, right? Learn how to set up the proper motion backgrounds in EasyWorship, so that way when you do a transition, it doesn't go green screen first and then comes back on with whatever you're doing,
Right.
Getting your lower thirds to properly be aligned on your live stream, if that's something you do. So
I would like to chime in really quick, Gary, because
you're not allowed.
Because I'm gonna play a little bit of devil's advocate here, and this is something that I'm absolutely notorious for. You do like Hogwarts, so I get it. And I am a Slytherin, so it does make sense. I think that identifying what other churches are doing and what the movers and shakers in the industry are doing is actually very important for a church that is growing and trying to identify what its footprint, what its visual footprint looks like. Just because it's so hard to innovate and identify without looking at outside sources. So I would just say take that with a grain of salt, of don't try to be somebody else. I totally agree with that. Don't try to be somebody else, but you can take aspects of those things that you like to try those and put them against your church to see what sticks and what fits and what your congregation responds well to, what your pastoral team responds well to, because they're a part of it as well. So that was just my 2 cents on that. If there is anyone listening to this who is in that specific, very interesting role of having to kind of reassess what your church's visuals look like, or what you want your worship experience to look like, be comfortable looking at what other people are doing, because they're going to be on, other churches are probably going to be on the forefront of what feels good, what looks good, what is engaging to your congregation, something that you might not ever think about just from the marketing background.
Dan, he went from 2 cents to 98 cents pretty quickly there.
Yeah,
that's literally pretty stunning for me.
I totally agree, and I'm not saying that our church is the exact same as it was 20 years ago. We have definitely evolved and changed and gotten better, and we use, I've implemented small things at a time, not like a giant, just a giant thing at one time and blown everybody out of the sanctuary. Thank goodness. But yeah, I mean, small changes here and there. You can take little things, say, try this, does it work or not? If it does, keep it there, keep going, keep upgrading things, keep doing things better. And but you don't want to just like throw everything at them at once and
good.
Move on. So you just kind of small changes.
Dan went through a steel guitar phase where he just solo steel. No, just
I mean, he kind of is getting like the Steely Dan look with the gray in his beard.
There you go. Man. That's what they call him. That's what they call him.
Steely. You see what I did there? Thank you for picking that up, Jared.
And Steely Dan is one of my least favorite artists ever.
Scored on both fronts.
I just cannot stand
it. Ruined him.
I got him. Mic drop. I'm out. I will add this piece before I move on to the next question. So I was listening to on my way up this morning to do this podcast with you guys. I was listening to a podcast. I won't tell you the name of the podcast because it's not.
You don't want to promote somebody else. I mean,
no, I will promote them, but the words and the title of the podcast weren't appropriate. But what it is about business, and it's about becoming just a totally awesome business owner. And so one of the things that this person in their podcast said was they were listing some steps of like what you should be focusing on. One of them was consolidation of service. And they were not talking about consolidating your services into one thing so you're able to do things better. They're talking about consolidating what you're doing and bringing those things down to a level that makes sense. So taking your most top selling items and more inventory of that to sell those, right? Honing down what you're doing in a specific sales channel to hone that down. So that way you're able to generate more sales, right? Because the idea is buy low, sell fast. And you continuously are overturning. You're taking product that was once liquid and you're turning it back into liquid quickly. And that's the idea that I think the church's mentality needs to become. The church we're slowly getting there. There are many churches who are doing this now, but the mentality is that in order for the church to be effective, and it's not only communication, but also its marketing and branding, and of course in its outreach, we have to learn how to be better at consuming information and turning it over quickly, and then using that information for good. And that requires us to be able to hone down what we're doing. So by starting small, you're able to then do exactly what Dan said, whatever you can throw at the wall and make it stick. Whatever sticks, then you go with that and you continuously move that forward. You make that your best seller and continuously move forward, picking up little things, trying them, and then dropping them if they don't work out. But it's all about being fluid and liquid in that respect. And I think churches have a lot to learn in that world. And we're slowly getting there, especially with like the advent of Hillsong and Bethel and Elevation Worship and, all of these big named artists and churches. They got that concept quickly. And that's why you see where they're at. That's how they moved to red cameras in their sanctuary because they started doing little things that got them to a position that required them to advance even further. And they started picking those things up. Innovation. So, okay. So that brings me into another big piece of this, right? Is like, we talk about this, but we don't talk about what effective training looks like for volunteers either. Like we talk about our software's being easy, right? Like you guys' software is easy. Our software is easy. I mean, a pencil is easy. The question is we don't talk too much about effective training because we may be able to train a user or 2 users or even 3 users at a time to use our softwares. But what are we doing to help those users train their other users? So that's the question I'm going to pose to EasyWorship now is where do you see that happening? Like there's a huge learning curve there for churches to gain these concepts as they grow. What do you see as like something that churches are needing to start stepping into that'll help them in that regard? What would that be?
So one thing that we see a lot is, for one, to start out, I do a basic training, try to about once a week, unless I'm out of town for whatever reason, but try to do a basic training It's about an hour long, and it goes through the software. And I encourage the people that attend those webinars to train their other volunteers, or they can come back and watch a recording of that with their other volunteers to help them use the software efficiently and effectively as well. But we're seeing a lot of community training, even across different churches, is through our community on our website, our community forums, and on our Facebook group. We have lots of users that ask questions, and other users that respond to their, give answers to their questions, try to help them out. We even have people that I see message each other and say, hey, or send me a message if you can come to my church if you're close to where I am and help me out with this, and people will respond to them. And so other churches helping other churches, and training in EasyWorship, and either online or even in person, and doing that through the Facebook group and our community forum, and it's great.
Yeah, that's a cool thing to think about, because that's something that I talk about. Like, my phrase is like, be a community within your community. I think that's probably one of the key things you're describing right there, is the because let's face it, like the community aspect of churches is a big piece of that. Like, no one church does anything alone. They usually go to somebody else and say, hey, what are you guys doing? How are you doing this? Like, they reach out to other people. They use the people around them to get that. So, I mean, that's a cool concept. And especially, and I've seen that with EasyWorship. Like, your guys' community is very strong. You guys have an amazing amount of people in there who are just wizards with EasyWorship and just know what they're doing. And our BoxCast community is growing in that regard too. YouTube University is also a big key factor in building a credible following in that community. So I agree with you on that. So, Jared, I know you've already given us like your 99.5 cents.
I'll give you a few more cents here too.
Yeah, there you go.
Specifically to that question, I think that I've kind of boiled it. I literally wrote these out because I was like, oh man, I got some fire that I want to spit on this one. So
he's over there using pen and paper.
I was like, man, I got to remember these.
So antiquated.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first thing that I kind of boil it down to, and how a resource can make itself effective to the church, is making itself simple. I think that's like the easiest, like the biggest overarching one. I think the second is onboarding. Whenever somebody comes on board with us, like Dan said, they have the opportunity to take an onboarding training class with us. So they get to understand what the software is, how it works, how you use it, what we call things, and kind of build the base level understanding for access to the other two things, which are ongoing support. Making sure that if they do have issues, that they can reach out to the company and get in touch with the company, which obviously we do enable. That's one of the things we really pride ourselves on, is our support of our users. So we offer 100% free support. So if you can call in, send an email, send a chat, somebody will get with you like super as fast as they can. Sorry, somebody from the support team is literally sending me a message right now. So, and the last thing is like secondary resources. So kind of what you're talking about, like YouTube University, like having a YouTube channel with Dan does all of our training content. He's done like 150 videos at this point, probably, if not more, on different like specific things within the software, like some like ranging from very simple things like creating a song or creating a theme or creating a presentation to like automating your entire worship experience using something like Ableton or like MIDI through multi-tracks, which is incredibly complicated and probably not good for every church, but there might be some niche churches who use it and it makes a lot of sense for their church. So having those secondary resources, and like you're saying, I would consider like community as one of those resources that people can reach out to and talk about issues and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, we're all here and we're all in this mixed bag together, man, So that leads me to another question that we'll start to bring this plane down from 30,000 down to 5,000 feet and eventually land it, is because we talk about this community thing, but we see the rise of Skynet becoming a huge piece of the puzzle now. And so, I mean, give me like in a 1 minute term here, Jared, starting with you, man. where do you see AI playing a factor here, especially in video presentation?
Video presentation's interesting. I think that, I think my knee jerk immediately goes to AI generated video being AI generated video and media probably playing a much bigger role than they are right now. And that's definitely going to change our environment for a lot of things. Because, I mean, even looking at AI generated video, the improvements over the past 2 years is jaw dropping. Some of the stuff is really hard to tell the difference between what is real and what's AI at this point. And, quote unquote real, because AI generated content is real.
Technically.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's the same, just as real as regular video. So, I think that that's probably going to be the biggest aspect. I don't think I'm a big enough visionary to be able to predict what it's going to look like for the presentation, like our environment. I don't think that it will impact us too heavily. But I think the area that it will impact us as a church, not necessarily as EasyWorship company, is the prevalence of AI generated content being probably the majority of what people use. And you'll see media producers start to fall off because they can't, keep the doors open, because people will just be using super cheap AI generated media that you can pop out like that. And you don't have to brain think it through and sit there in After Effects for 6 hours making a 30-second animated background when somebody just generates it in 5 seconds.
Right. So, Dan, what are you thinking?
Yeah. I'm an old guy, so I have.
You had to lead with that.
Yeah. What's AI? What do you mean?
Wait, what does that mean?
Yeah.
I haven't thought about it that much. I know it's on the horizon, and it's beginning to take over a lot of things. But yeah, I agree with Jared. It's going to be difficult to compete with, I think. Just being able to create your own media through AI it's going to be easy for people. But yeah, beyond that, I don't have a lot of thought about it. I probably should.
Yeah.
It'll probably affect my job in the future. So
I can tell you, BoxCast, not just as a company, but even just people who are BoxCast, like that's something we're thinking about all the time.
Yeah.
We're not only are we thinking like AI generation tools or AI, systems that produce the content or help you produce the content, but it's those tools and systems that actually produce, right? So that would be something that would be an interesting thing. Like we see in the future, like, what if you didn't need the guy to push the button all the time? What if the system just could watch the camera and do it for you, right?
Oh, there you go.
Which some of that already exists, actually. So it's not something the BoxCast is actually doing, but it's something that, it already exists. But, just those little things, like the thing that I think people have a problem with is they're scared of what AI will do to the church. They're scared it's going to take the church and boil it down into a box where every church is now a cookie cuttered version of itself across the board. They're all using the same graphics media, the same attention grabbing information,
I can see that. And
then AI, the privacy and security, and the fact that there's some things about AI that someone is programming into it and may not get the correct information, or it may just be aligned one side politically or another, and some churches don't like that. And they won't like that. So there's that aspect of being afraid of using a tool. And that's where I think scripturally we have the word discernment come into play. Like that's who we are. We as stewards of the gospel, we have to have discernment in all things that we do. Just like a pastor has to have a discernment for what they do with their finances, or, my wife has to have discernment for what she teaches the youth. So there's those aspects, and that we have to be very compliant within what the scriptural belonging says about our discernment, and AI being one of those things that are emerging very quickly. We're going to have some discernment and responsibility. So
that was honestly, I hadn't even considered the application of sort of like fully automating like a service through AI. It's a super interesting concept, but I think that you're dead on with discernment and it's still being more of like a Tesla self-driving situation where there's somebody there managing it rather than it being fully autonomous.
You can't take a nap while you're driving that Tesla, bro.
And I would.
Well, that brings me to the like landing the plane, guys, bringing everything together. Listen, if you haven't looked at EasyWorship or taken a look at their software or anything, please look at the link down in the comments section below. Actually, it's in the description, not the comments. I'll put it in the comments. I'll probably type it in. But can you guys give me an idea as to where to find you? Like, how do people connect with you? Is there any kind of like really cool offer you guys have right now that somebody who is, looking to get into EasyWorship, they can dump into it now?
Yeah, absolutely. If you get in touch with us, we'd be happy to make sure that you guys get taken care of in terms of, fiscal discount. So if you want to email our sales team, you can email sales@support.com. You can also, if you have any personal questions about Dan, feel free to Dan@EasyWorship.com. He's happy to answer all of those. 24 hours a day is when he answers those. So
yes, he does. I know. I've called him at 3 a.m.
Yeah, he will pick up. And Dan's personal cell phone number is
317.
555. But yeah, just get in touch with our sales team. We'd be happy to talk to you. We're happy to answer any questions on Facebook, mainly on Facebook, but we also have a YouTube channel at EasyWorship Software, or you can just search us on Facebook and connect with us through there. And we're always monitoring that chat in our communities as well. We'd love to share more about our product and see if it's a good fit for your church.
Absolutely.
And that was actually sales or support at easyworship.com.
Yeah, support also works.
Yeah, and easyworship.com is your main website.
Easyworship.com. Yeah.
Excellent. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it. You guys are ballers and funny, and it's just an engaging content. So just want to ask you one little thing here. Do you eat pickles when you play pickleball?
We can ask that. Sometimes you gotta rehydrate, and pickle juice is actually really good. Pickle juice is
I never have.
Yeah, we should probably make some sort of meme about doing that. I'm sure it hasn't been super overplayed already.
We use AI.
Oh, no. Yeah, we can use AI. And then we'll use EasyWorship to present it while we live stream it on BoxCast.
Right. Oh, hey.
Full circle.
Trifecta. Thanks again, guys, for joining me. Hey, listen, if you have not tried BoxCast, please do so. BoxCast.com. We'd love to talk with you. If you have not tried EasyWorship, EasyWorship.com. We'd would love to have you go over there and visit our friends. And I'm sure they would love to talk with you about how they can help serve your church video presentation needs. I'm Gary, your community manager. And again, as always, hit that like button, comment down below, and subscribe for more cool content like this. And as always, happy streaming.